everyone, and welcome to India Sportsbiz Talks.
Most of the coaches I spoke with, they were not ready to take me to teach even the sport as simple as the swimming, right? So I faced a lot of rejection.
Vibhas Sen is a strategic marketing consultant by profession and Paralympian by passion, who made his disability his strength. He's been ranked internationally in men's sabre and aims to compete at the Tokyo Olympics in wheelchair fencing. He also holds various positions as a marketeer with various prestigious brands and companies across India. Today, we explore the world of Paralympic sports in India through Vibhas' lens. So I'd love to start with your story and your trajectory as a para athlete in fencing.
Right. I mean, my story is more of a accidental discovery into fencing, right? I started my career from swimming, but because I started it very, very late, I mean, when I say late, I mean, I was almost 27 years old, right? So comparatively, I started sports very late in my career. Hence, I realized that swimming would be difficult for me to continue because it's more of a endurance based skill, right? Which you need to build, and with age, I would not be getting fitter or stronger. So I thought, let me find a sport which doesn't have an bearing on age, and hence I tried figuring out which all sports are there which are which doesn't have any age as a barrier. So I boiled down to archery, shooting, and fencing. But I think when I saw fencing as a sport, it really gripped me because it's the only combat sports in the Paralympic which is there, right? We don't have any other combat sport rather than fencing. So that led me to fencing. It was really difficult to find a coach. I mean, fencing is comparatively very, very young sport itself in India, and it was very difficult for me to find a coach who knows fencing. There were only two coaches in Bombay where I used to stay, and hence, right, I met my coach. He wasn't aware of wheelchair fencing then because he was only a fencing coach. But we discussed and we said, let's give this a try. I mean, because he knows the basic of fencing, he only has to add the wheelchair factor into it.
That's very interesting as well. If I dial it back even more, why sports though? It seems like you've already figured out that you want to definitely take up a sport. Um, why sports? Like what prompted you to find your way into sports in the first place?
Right. I mean, I mean, as a young kid, right? I always wanted to play sport like any other kid, right? But given the accessibility issue which we had then, and the awareness which we had way back that time, it wasn't possible for me to join any sport, right? Then, right? But I think with more of evolution and people getting aware, coaches started to be more aware of sports, of how to teach people with disability sports, right? And hence, I tried my luck. I again tried to find a coach who can, take me just to teach a normal swimming, right? So I just wanted to swim, right? I mean, so swimming is a great a life skill, and I always wanted to swim, but I couldn't swim, or I couldn't learn to swim. But finally, I convinced a coach who had confidence in me that I can swim, and for me, I just started swimming as a recreational activity, right? I didn't take sport as a professional, that I want to be a swimmer, international or a national swimmer. So I mean, for me, I just started recreational sport, and luckily in the same swimming pool there was a guy who was a national swimmer. He saw me. He said that, Vibhas, why don't you give a state champion, which was 2 months from now. He said, why don't you give it a shot? I said, okay, there is nothing to lose for me. So I gave my first state championship a try, and luckily I got a silver medal, right? So I think, and that was my first medal in competitive sports. And I think from there things just fell into place. I mean, post my swimming at state, I went to national. Then I joined field fencing, state championship, in national championship gold, and then international.
Commendable. Take us through your story of how you trained yourself as well. I read somewhere that it was a lot of YouTube videos, considering both you and your coach kind of figured the methodology out together. One, how was your story? How did you train yourself, fund your training? And then, secondly, have you seen any improvements since the time you started out to compete and till now?
Right. For me, I mean, as I said, right. I mean, fencing was an accidental sport. My coach wasn't aware of anything called wheelchair fencing, so we both invested time in knowing this sport, right? Sharing YouTube videos, because this sport is again a very European dominated sport, right? I mean, most of the countries who excel are from Europe. The awareness in Asia and specifically in India is very, very less. Uh, and though 90% of the basic techniques remains the same, but there are few tweaks which one has to learn when you do wheelchair fencing. So of course we didn't have that knowledge, or no one in India had those kind of a knowledge. So we went to YouTube, we started watching a lot of videos of how the sport is played at a Paralympic level, right? What I mean, how do they combat? So small things like this, we started observing how the players react. We reading a lot about how this reading in terms of rules, right? And yeah, so I think we self-taught ourselves, right, of on how to do wheelchair fencing in India.
Yeah, how like what improvements have you seen since the time you started competing in just, you know, training for differently abled athletes or specific to maybe wheelchair fencing?
Yeah. I think there has been a good improvement in coaching in India, right? For I mean, with India getting more medals in Paralympic than the Olympic medals, right? Which happened in 2016, right? We got the Paralympic team got more medals than the able body Olympic. So I think that was a very defining moment for all of us, right? People started to notice us, that this, though we were a very less in number, the contingent which went to 2020 2016 in Rio was very, very small compared to the what the Olympic team went. But if we see the ratio, right, a player versus medal in both Olympics and Paralympic, I think we are at 20% player to medal ratio, which is like phenomenal compared to the Olympic, which was somewhere around 1 to 2%, right? So I think that gave us a good push in terms of awareness. Coaches started seeing this sport can be taken, right? Coaches started to learn about this sport, right? Mostly all the coaches do know the basic of e-sport, but they started investing time in understanding the rules. there have been some exchange of coaches internationally, right? Few coaches went down to different part of the world to train sports. Vice versa, um, there have been few coaches like for in fencing. There is one coach from UK who visits in India every year, right? He comes and gives us an almost a 1 month camp here in India, right? So there have been some good exchange which is happening currently. Though we are very far off, but at least there has been a good start. Is all what I can say.
What are some of the difficulties for Paralympic athletes in India?
I mean, of course, there are a plethora of right problems. First is firstly there aren't much accessible sports club in India where one can train, right? Like for example, swimming, or you take any other sport, the sporting facilities are not accessible. So that's obstacle number one. Obstacle number two would be coaches are very handful who knows how to give them a specialized training, right? um, so the and third being of course awareness of a sport. I mean people don't I mean people still think sport as a recreational activity rather than a profession, right? So I think that kind of awareness needs to be built somewhere, that you can use sport for various things. You can get employability, you can get I mean there is an confidence which you build when you play sport, right? So sport has to be shown that it's just not a recreational activity. It has a multiple application which can be used. So yeah, so I think awareness would be the third, but mainly accessibility of the sport is the biggest issue here.
That makes sense. What are your goals and aspirations for Paralympic sports in India?
I mean, my goals and aspiration is I try to speak about this sport. Trying to raise awareness. I try to speak about inclusion of sport in different school and colleges where I go to speak. Right. I mean, whenever I find a public platform, I try to talk about how sport has changed my life, and how it can change everyone's life, right? If you learn sport. uh so yeah, I try to talk about multiple application of sports in terms of sport diplomacy, how to use sport uh to solve some policy level problem, right? So those kind of awareness is what I do personally. uh, and I think when more people start talking about sport, I think though it will take time, but I think sooner or later it will have a cascading effect, right? I mean, even if I'm able to motivate 5 people to take up sports, then it's a good for me, right? So yeah, I try to do that.
That's great to hear, absolutely. So, what's next for you as an athlete and subsequently as a working professional?
Working profession, of course, I am very proud to put two hats of marketer, which is my profession, and fencing, which is my passion, right? On a professional front, I am growing into a senior leadership role. I think sport is of course complementing in my professional journey, and vice versa also, right? There is an overlap of uh, uh, the sport where I mean the leadership quality which you learn while playing sport, right? So of course those are helping me grow as an individual and also professionally. In terms of sport, yes, I am aiming for this year's Paralympic. Right, we'll wait and see how that goes. So yeah, let's hope that I am able to make it this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Wish you the best for that. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please don't forget to rate and subscribe to our podcast for more such content on the business of sports in India.